Well, welcome everybody. This is BAA Compliance Briefing. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm with GovBrief, and with us today we have Roy. Say it again, Roy. I'm gonna butcher it.
Satterthwaite.
Satterthwaite. Satterthwaite.
Satterthwaite.
And there will be a quiz for everybody phonetically at the end of this briefing. And also with us we have Carrie Ferguson. She's the Director of Government Business with Trendway. Say hello, Carrie.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. And welcome, everybody. I'm Dave Lowe. I'll be the session host, and we want to welcome everybody from the government that's joined us. We have folks that are all over the country and some of them around the world that are joining us today dealing with the Buy American Act and some of the compliance issues that you all are seeing. And a quick disclaimer, this event is not affiliated or endorsed by any agency and is provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only. All participation in this briefing is voluntary, and any engagement by you folks in the government is not an indication or endorsement of a purchase to any vendor. So there you have it. So with that, we'll get into a couple of the briefing controls. Just if you have any questions, please feel free to open up that panel on the right-hand side. You can enter the information down at the bottom, and you can also raise your hand and let us know. We can do dialogue back and forth if you have a microphone, or if you happen to call in on the phone, you can enter your audio pin so that we can unmute you. Also, we have the ability for you to email us at any time at govsupport@trendway.com, and we'll do our best to be able to answer your questions directly regarding the BAA compliance as well as any information for Trendway. One more little item. If you like the way that Roy looks today, he did put on his jacket for everybody. So if you like the way that he looks, you can make us even bigger, or if you don't like it, you can make us disappear altogether. And with that, we're going to get right at it because we have a lot of information to share here today dealing with the Buy American Act and some of the things that we're seeing coming down from the administration. We'll give you a quick introduction to Trendway, and why they're here today is because they provide Buy American Act compliant products. We'll talk about the initiatives and regulations, those specific requirements for BAA compliance, as well as talk about some additional requirements that are still out there for being able to meet LEED and also EPA requirements, and the ability for products to be able to meet both of those for furniture, fixture, and equipment. We'll get into some questions. We already have some already, if you can imagine, as well as being able to help you protect your agency when you're looking to fulfill those needs for Buy American Act products. With that, I'm going to ask of several polls throughout this, and we'll keep them as brief as we possibly can. Are you here because of Buy American Act regulations, or you have a furniture requirement and you want to be able to meet those requirements with Buy American Act components? So go ahead and answer that. That's a simple one. That's a choice of two. So if you can't do that one, everybody can participate. So there you go. And with that, we'll give you another 5, 4, 3. Thanks for participating, by the way. 2, 1, and here we go. 72% for Buy American regulations, and then 28% have a requirement for furniture. So we're glad that you're here. And we also want to make sure that you know a little bit about Trendway. The reason why Trendway is here today is that they are a furniture company that meets Buy American Act. Some of the components are listed under Buy American Act and BIFMA standards. So, Carrie, tell us a little bit about Trendway and how you guys got started. I know that you're based up there in Holland, Michigan. Where is Holland, Michigan?
Thanks, Dave, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I'd be happy to touch on Trendway. We actually started in Holland, Michigan, which is on the west side of Michigan, about 50 years ago. We actually originated as a modular wall manufacturer. And the benefits of really working with Trendway is we offer a comprehensive solution of interior options, and that includes the modular wall, systems furniture, freestanding, and multi-purpose seating and desking. So Dave's rolling along the screen here. So yes, so we have several options within each category. In addition to our products, we actually have several sustainable initiatives that include BIFMA level certification, zero waste to landfill initiative, and SES certified, which is also Green Card compliant. Trendway is a veteran-owned small business, and we also have several of our authorized distribution partners and teaming partners who hold GSA contracts as well have other significant designations that include service disabled, veteran-owned, woman-owned small business, hub zone, and 8A. So if there's a specific procurement goal or initiative that needs to be met, as well as some other supplemental or teaming partners that we work with, those options are available.
Awesome. And one of the main reasons that you're here is because you have assembly and manufactured in the United States, and that makes you BAA and TAA compliant, which is very important today. And we had a lot of questions earlier. Tell us a little bit about your past performance and give us a dose of some of the agencies that you work with and the importance of what you do with those agencies.
Sure. We actually have a long-standing history servicing the federal government, a pretty lengthy past performance in serving the Department of Defense. Some other agencies aside from defense would be NIH and USDA, and we've been, proud to serve them and have been taking care of their interiors for quite some time. I would like to mention that even though we are a small business company, we do have the ability to handle projects of specific magnitude. For instance, recently we had a project that had a requirement for 3,000 workstations and pulled that off successfully in, the phasing and the requirements for the deadlines for the installations.
Super. And that's quite important. A lot of folks here are here to check out how to meet these Buy American standards. Let's go back to what the Buy American Act is. It started way back in 1933. It is focusing on products produced in the United States. And the level of what that means is that 50% or more of the components have to be created in the United States. If they're not, they're generally treated as foreign. And this means different things to different people, and especially in the new administration. So there are a couple of things to take away. First, the end product must be manufactured in the United States, and more than 50% of the cost of the components must be manufactured in the United States. And that will give you the designation of meeting the Buy American Act. So in that aspect, because you're manufactured in Michigan, and a lot of your products, even the wall products, are manufactured there. So you have the ability, and other places in the United States for that matter. But if that's one of the reasons why you're here. So with that, just to dive a little bit more, Congress passed that back in 1933. The act was altered in 1979 with the passing of the TAA, with the Trade Agreements Act. Now, this doesn't pull away from the BAA. It just offers ways to have a waiver for those. So BAA applies to acquisitions over the micro purchase threshold of $3,000. And then it also states that when it applies, even in federal purchasing, the agencies can purchase a foreign product. There are a few different things that have to happen there, like a waiver or some sort of ability to purchase around that, and you need to be able to have that waiver in place. So TAA gave the president the authority to waive these requirements for certain procurements. Now, this was also delegated to the U.S. Trade Representative. Now, this U.S. Trade Representative waived the BAA eligible products for acquisitions with several different type of trades agreements, including the NAFTA and some of the other agreements, such as the Israeli agreements as well. Now, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden that they are becoming BAA compliant. That means that a waiver exists for those products at this particular time at the approval of the President of the United States. So here are the things, just as quick takeaways. BAA applies to purchases over $3,000. The TAA thresholds. Under the TAA requirements, additional cost evaluation penalty can be applied for foreign offers, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So you have the ability for waivers to exist using TAA compliant products, but we're also seeing a lot of things from the new administration that we'll get into in just a minute The exceptions to the BAA are pretty clear. This is coming from the Department of Commerce from 2011. So this is already standardized. So if the public interest is involved, if there's a determination of the public interest that something needs to happen, we've all seen these things, right? Some things you just cannot get domestically, right? The non-availability, if it's an unreasonable cost, some things specific to commissary, dealing with products, obviously for produce and things like that. And then there's information technology, which is a whole nother subject. We're not going to go into that today with cloud computing and the rest of the components for that, but for a commercially available item. So the new developments, though, the new administration has obviously a Buy American focus, right? We hear it in the news. We see it all over the place. We also have an Employ American focus. There's also explicit language, contract language that is coming out, which is removing some of the waivers or circumventing some of the waivers that are in place by the different trade agreements. And we know about different types. We know about the Paris Accord, obviously, that just happened last week. But we're also talking about some of the removal of waivers, for instance, setting the precedent with construction of American pipelines for the executive order back in January. This includes a 25 price protection over TAA compliant products. So this is what is coming down. It's obvious what's happening is that the BAA contract language is taking preference. There is definite removal of some of the waivers that are happening, and this is also going to be impacting us as companies, as well as contractors in the federal government, contracting folks in the federal government, to be able to meet these standards and be able to have the projects go along as we want them to. And one of the ways to be able to do that is buying from an American company. So the other part is there's still sustainability mandates that are out there for sustainability over the next decade. This includes ANSI and BIFMA sustainability standards for furniture specifically. And this is an interagency effort that started back in 2011. A lot of things reinforced in 2011, as you can see. It gives preferred status for sustainable products. And this also applies to what's happening here and why Trendway is here today, because if you look at that icon that's down on the right-hand side there, EPA recommended icon for the level for the BIFMA level. And you can find those at levelpreferred.org, where you can see the products and the components that are available for Trendway, from Trendway, including movable walls, which is why Roy is here today. And we will get to some of the construction components of why movable walls are being preferred in some construction environments today. So we'll get to those as well. And we have the next poll, which is my biggest issue with furniture, is number one, meeting those BAA requirements. Delivery delays, you can pick as many as you like, I think, in this one. Vendor responsiveness when you do have issues, and we know that there are issues from time to time. Meeting those socioeconomic goals outside of just small business or BAA compliance, or is it about the budget and pricing? And we all know that that's a component that is very important for a lot of folks, is the ability to maintain that budget. So let us know what it is that's on your mind, and we'll make sure we include the information and go down that direction. So with that, we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, and we appreciate your participation in this, and we'll close it out, and there you go. So there's a lot of folks here for the BAA compliance, and a lot of folks are concerned about delays as well as budget and pricing. So we're not alone in this, and that's what I love about these briefings, is we get the opportunity to be able to dialogue, and we love to have that as a dialogue. So, Carrie, let's talk a little bit about one of the reasons why you're here, and it's not just a sales pitch for this, but it's the ability to not only show you what the problems are that are out there that are coming down on folks' heads for BAA compliance and EPA compliance, but to give them solutions. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions that you have. There's several different lines that you provided Trendway for furniture.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I'm going to touch on the furniture component. We did mention modular walls earlier, and Roy is going to really dive into that as we get further along here. But within our particular product lines, we have, again, I mentioned that comprehensive solution. So systems furniture, we have Capture, Choices, and Contrada. And within those lines, they really offer, different aesthetics and also ways to meet certain budget requirements based on, the product pricing and the price point that needs to be met. Within the freestanding, again, we have multiple options. We have intrinsic and pack, and that really comprises of laminate case good options as well as metal desking. And again, that really rounds out a full offering to meet, if there's a specific design aesthetic, in the panels, we get into situations where we need to have a certain panel thickness, how to manage power and data. We have 2-inch panel options, nominal 3-inch, monolithic frame and tile. So depending on who's out there, that may be a more meaningful information. And I'd like to say that, as more, maybe some technical questions or follow-up is required, I'd be happy to touch base with more detail on these. And then also what's more meaningful as well, aside from what your product offering, is your performance. And we really speak to the heart of that, because projects have specific deadlines they need to meet and have certain flexibility. We like to say Trendway, for those of you that don't know us or know us and may not have known this about us, we are 25% employee owned. And we'd like to say, we're owners and we act like it. And we take that to task every day, with the product we produce and our customer service experience. And then along with that performance is the lead time. So we offer what we consider the best abbreviated, lead times in the industry. Our average lead times for standard product within the furniture is 2 to 3 weeks. And that's from receipt of order to the time the product ships. We also have 3 to 5 day express programs available as well, among all those lines that are listed up there and within the systems and case goods. And then, I've worked in various roles in this industry, and, timing and performance and just meeting that deadline for the install is so critical. And, we'd like to say, throughout that whole process of either a new construction or a renovated space or even just reconfiguration, there's a lot of opportunity for patients to be lost, going down the line of the project timeline. And, we find ourselves the next to last part that's moved into a space next to the people getting back into it. And we have a policy that we stand behind our acknowledged ship dates, and that's on time or on Trendway. So what we do is when a project takes place, order is entered into production, we do our homework and we acknowledge that order with an actual ship date early on in the process. So we know, when that timeline is going to be met and that install is going to be take place. So if we don't,
what does that mean? On time or on Trendway? That's a pretty unique statement.
It simply means if we don't meet, the ship date that we've promised, we gift the furniture. And wow. Basically, we also like to say we're not in the business of giving away furniture. We're doing what we say we would, what we said we would do.
I certainly would think that wouldn't be your business model to be giving things away, but that's a unique unique value proposition that I hadn't heard. So very good. That's why you're here, and the main reason why you're here is because everything that's manufactured meets the BAA compliance, as well as you can see, the BIFMA level compliance here, and there's more products as well that can be chosen from for BAA compliance. So with that, when do you expect to have a furniture requirement? Is it immediately? Is it Q4 2017, Q1 2018? And for the federal folks, Q4 is right around the corner, right? Later in 2018, or just not sure. So let us know what makes the most sense for you, and we'll make sure that you get the information that you need when you need it. And we'll give folks a little bit longer to be able to respond to that. Appreciate you guys participating in those, because it helps us understand what it is that you need most. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll show you what's out there. There's a lot of folks that need things right away, and some folks not so sure. And I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do two of these polls. And the reason being is because the next one is kind of interesting in the reasoning behind it. And that is, how often does your agency move or change the office layout? Is it rarely? Is it 1 to 5 times a year? or is it every time that there's somebody new in leadership? We see that happen from time to time. But we're finding more and more as we talk with folks in the federal space the need for flexibility in the office space because of the changing dynamics of either the organization or the folks within the organization, and the changing needs of being able to utilize that space better. So with that, I'll let folks vote on that, and we appreciate you joining in for that. And almost everybody's voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. And here's the results. Check this out, Roy. This is what we're leading into, and that is 1 to 5 times per year. Folks, a lot of folks, or rarely, are doing it. Sometimes it's rarely because they can't change the layout because of the way things are laid out. And this is why within the office complex. So tell us a little bit about movable walls. As Carrie said, you guys actually started in that environment. Tell us how that happened and how you got to be there.
Sure. Well, thank you. Welcome, everybody. We appreciate your time today. As Carrie said, we started in the movable wall business over 50 years ago, and then gradually moved into the furniture side of the business and supply a turnkey from a manufacturing standpoint, which is really beneficial and of value to many of our customers. But over the years, we've developed 3 different wall systems. And you say, well, why 3 different walls? Well, that's because everybody has different needs, whether it's performance, aesthetics, pricing, and not one wall system can fill all those needs. So we have 3 different levels. So, and number 2, we design walls that are made with high aesthetics, high design, and very movable and very reusable, because we believe that people buy walls because they anticipate or want to move and change. So on the poll there, it said, we never move and change. What I find many times over the past 37 years is people don't move and change because they can't. It's not easy. To go in and redo a department, you've got to hire a contractor, do it internally, move people out, get the computer people in, the IT people, the phone people, visqueen things off. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and sometimes it can take a month or 2 months, and it's not easy. With walls, it's much easier, and we'll get into the reasons why as we move forward.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that folks are looking at this is the ability to add or contribute to their LEED certification. And most of the folks that are in construction here know that there are requirements for federal buildings to meet those LEED requirements. And here's some. I have no idea what you have here with the LEED and all the points and all those things, but suffice it to say what?
Suffice it to say is that movable walls today with version 9, LEED version 9, can contribute potential credits to LEED certification. And I find most federal government agencies some of them are trying to get at least a silver, which is the minimum. Mm-hmm. So we qualify in a couple strong areas. One is the material and resources, because our products are reusable. When you move them and change them, they don't break down. You don't throw them in the dumpster. And indoor quality is another one, because they don't off-gas. They don't have properties that are inherent to drywall and so forth.
And let's talk about that, because one of the biggest issues in any construction environment is the ability to get that job done so that it can be occupied, right? So let's talk about why, and I've seen this too. I've heard this from several of the folks in the federal space that why they're looking at the ability to implement these movable walls. But you tell us why it is that they're looking for this.
Sure. So on this slide, this slide is all telling about walls and needs, movable walls, and this runs across end users, which many of you live and breathe in that space, life after open house, so to speak, architects and GCs. So speed to occupancy is huge with GCs and users today. you lease a space or you need to move into a space very quickly, what do the bosses say? How quick can I get in there? I need to get in there yesterday. Let's get this design, let's get it built out, and let's get people back working. Movable walls are much, much faster from a standpoint of installation and reconfiguration than typical drywall. So all of you have had experience with drywall. Movable walls are pre-manufactured in the plant to your specifications, and we'll get into that in another slide. But when they shipped already assembled. So the labor costs are less. The speed to get in is much, much quicker than drywall, and this has been proven over and over again, and it's a fact that we can, get you documentation. Reusability, these products are made of steel and aluminum, and you can reuse them over and over and over again. We've got projects out at Tinker Air Force Base and Fort Bragg where these people have had these products for years and years and years, and they move them and change them every day. They have paid for themselves over and over again. And by the way, you can typically take a private office or a conference room, and 2 men can move that or change it overnight, or for sure over the weekend. So nobody's out of work. Everybody's productivity is high. And another one big is aesthetics, especially for the A&D community. They like a lot of glass. They like a lot of thin profiles and design. You can use glass, vinyl, fabrics, veneers, anything you can put on drywall, you can make in our walls. And it all boils down to lower labor costs because it's so easy to install and move and change. So it's all about dollars and cents, to be honest with you. It saves you money.
And
we talk about, we need all the ANSI BIFMA standards that there is out there.
That's awesome. And so a lot of the reasons for movable walls, and you mentioned this, it's pre-engineered in a factory. It's unitized construction. What does unitized construction mean exactly?
Sure. Well, unitized construction means is that these panels, and let's just say that you have a ceiling height of 9'6" and you have a conference room that's 12 foot wide with a door in it. We manufacture that 12-foot front and that 9'6" panel to precise specifications to fit that opening. So our panels come in 6-inch increments up to 60 inches in 8-inch increments, and from 7 feet up to 14 feet in 1/4-inch increments. So we can build a panel any size that you want to fit any space and any layout. It comes already assembled. So if you order a full glass panel or a half high pressure laminate and the top of it's glass, it comes all assembled. The glass is already in it. The only thing it doesn't ship pre-assembled are ceiling track that attaches to the grid and a floor track that sits on your carpet, and then the door frames. Everything else comes assembled, so it's very easy to change and move. Also the hardware, the doors, all of that. We will provide whatever you need or whatever is available in the commercial market. If you want to provide your own hardware or your own doors, you can do that also, or we can supply it. So again, some of the other bullet points, clean installation, no dust, no odor, no waste, adds, moves, and changes, and a very, very high STC, much higher STC rating than drywall, which people don't realize. So again, just other benefits.
And that's what makes it unique with the walls. And you mentioned what I find interesting is the ability to be able to move those at will, to be able to get whatever happens within the agency to work. So with that, I'm going to ask the next poll, which is, what are your challenges when making adds and moves and changes? And it could be designing the space. It could be the drywall dust. You mentioned that, a lot cleaner. The time or loss of productivity. Oftentimes that gets lost, by the way. And the cost or the overall cost of the project. So I'm gonna leave that open for just a little bit, so folks can let us know. And then we're going to get to the questions, and we have a bunch of them already. So we'll get to those. So have your questions, get your questions ready. If you need to, raise your hand and we'll make sure we dialogue with you. And we'll give another 3 seconds. Got 3 seconds. You can do it. 2, 1, and bam. So we'll get some specific information for help with designing in the space, and the time loss of productivity. That sounds like management in there, and an overall cost of the project. That sounds like contracting folks. So with that, and management as well. So now we'll get to the questions. If you open up that panel on the right hand side, you can raise your name, raise your hand, and we'll call on you. Let's see. Numbers busy. I'm not sure what that was. And let's see. How do you get a copy of the slides, Felicia? We will send out a copy of the slides with a follow-up email, and you have access to the slides as well as the presentation itself, including a recording that you can watch over and over and over just because it's so entertaining. So there you have it. And then will this briefing also include discussion on equipment or just furniture? Primarily furniture today. If you have specific needs on equipment, I have your information. We'll make sure that we get additional information for that. Let's see. We have recently seen RFPs with requirements on for demountable partitions. Would movable walls be the same thing? Great question. Thank you very much, Emily. What do you have for that, Roy?
Well, sure. Over the years, the names go back and forth. A lot of specifications come back as demountable partitions. Some of them come back as movable walls. So I would say that they are similar, but not really in our world. Demountable partitions, in a true sense of the word, come to the site typically knocked down. The frames are not put together. If there are panel segments, they're not put together. The ceiling track, floor track, everything has to be built with a demountable system. So there's longer labor hours. It just takes longer to put together. With a movable wall, the true sense, again, is that it comes in unitized. It's already assembled except for a few things, like I said before, the ceiling channel and the floor channel. So biggest difference is one is kind of stick built, knocked down, and the other is already assembled. So you can see there's a major difference in labor and the ability to move it and change it with a true movable wall versus a demountable.
So Emily, what we'll do is we'll make sure you get Roy's contact information and see if it's applicable for what you're doing. So is any content or discussion on Buy American Act? Yes, Harper, we were talking about that earlier. If there's anything in particular you would like to know about the Buy American Act, I will cover whatever topics we need to. Does Trendway ship to the U.S. Virgin Islands?
Well, we typically ship to the Miami, and from there it's taken overseas that way, not overseas, but taken to the Bahamas or Puerto Rico or whatever. But we ship to the port of call, and then it heads over on a ship.
All right.
And typically our partners arrange for all that in Miami to have it sent over.
Okay. So one of the questions from Paris has to deal with addressing for construction materials under trade agreements for Buy American. So there's a lot embedded in that particular question. If it's something specific for construction materials that you're asking about, we'll take that online. For construction, it meets the same requirements, needs to meet the same requirements as any other product, and that is 50% of it has to be produced here, has to be from the United States, and that you can't just peel off a sticker and put it on. It has to be 50% from, and it has to, any additional components that are improvements of that, it has to be in addition to that 50% part.
So Dave, just to interject, all of our walls are, everything that we put into our walls in particular, that's all made here in the U.S.
Right. So as far as Trendway is concerned, you guys meet that. Do your PMs have experience with design build projects and sitting across from end users during schematic design? Wow, that's a wild one. Thank you very much, Donald. Do you have experience in design build projects?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, we do. I mean, we get involved because walls are typically talked about and budgeted very early on in the cycle, in the building cycle. If we come into a middle of a project and you've already budgeted and funded for drywall, it's hard to find the money to put in movable walls. So we sit down early with the decision makers, the owners, the architects, the GCs, a lot of times even before the GC is picked, and discuss and talk about advantages and opportunities and things that we can do with the walls to help value engineer the product and the process and schematics and design.
Okay. Now this
design build contractors are a big user of our product. They love it because of the speed.
So this is from Keith. For Carrie, what is your source mix of raw material? What's the limit for foreign source material to remain in compliance? The answer is 50% is the limit. Do you have anything else to add to that, Carrie? I mean, obviously your source is United States. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So I know of many products, this is from Tim. I know of many products involving products made in China. Is this legal? If I'm aware, what is my responsibility to report this? Great question. I've informed purchasers that the Chinese-made product they're purchasing from U.S. vendors are not substantially transformed in the U.S. and they're totally manufactured in China, but sold by a U.S. vendor. What should I do if I'm aware of this? And my recommendation, it would be to talk to the Inspector General for your agency, for the agency Inspector General, and that they can get if it becomes an issue. But that's the main place to play for that. And then that answers your next question. What if the purchasing agent ignores my warning about the products? Then that's not on you anymore, right? Then Inspector General can be involved in that. So question about Canadian manufacturers being BAA compliant due to NAFTA. The answer is yes, there's a standing waiver in place for NAFTA and other trade agreements to the Buy American Act. Now, we are also seeing explicit language being placed and required in those, and it doesn't negate the ability to charge or to provide price protection for Buy American products on those projects. This is an evolving thing. We're seeing the changes in the administration, and so the idea is to bring it out because it's a hot topic right now for everybody. But that's the answer. Let's see. Technical question. What percent of assembly constitutes BAA? That would be 50%. It says we procure a lot of weapons and tactical accessories. You don't do weapons and tactical accessories, do you, Roy?
No, but I like guns.
But yeah, it's still applies.
Not that we're aware of.
It's 50% is the assembly of the assembly. It's actually 50% of the product components, and then the rest of it can be other components. To be a TAA compliant, does it have to be a COTS product? A COTS product can be TAA compliant because it's commercial off the shelf, but and I'm not going to go too much into TAA versus BAA, which is your next question. So there you go. So if we can send out some information on each one of those for TAA and BAA compliance. So if any additional questions, feel free to ask those, and we'll do our best to get to those. Hopefully, Harpo, we got to your question a little bit about BAA compliance. And with that, because we want to stay on time best we can, staying out of hot water, keeping your agency out of hot water is what it's all about. You want to make sure that you are BAA and TAA compliant so the IG doesn't get involved. That's the first thing. Secondly, verify those lead times before you get started with any particular vendor and get guarantees on the ship date. And I threw this in there because of what you said, Carrie, is that on time or on Trendway. That's a little plug for Trendway. That if it's not on time, then it's on you, right?
Absolutely.
And so verifying those warranties, choosing quality vendors, having build-to-spec options, similar to what Roy had illustrated, verifying the past performance, look at the CPARs, making sure that the folks have good CPARs always helps with the contracting side, including using BPAs. If you're not familiar with establishing BPAs in these types of environments, gives you fast access to vendors. And you can, if you're looking to establish those, you can use other contracting numbers, including GSA contracting numbers, to develop that. And real quick to talk about, because Trendway was nice enough to join us for this briefing. You mentioned earlier that you have a GSA schedule, so that information is here. But you also have a couple of BPAs that could make it easier for folks to buy as well. So talk about those a little bit.
Yes, so yeah, we've been on GSA contract for almost 30 years, and then we do hold an HHS BPA, which is an interagency contract, and then also on the Navy BPA. And then again, just mentioning, several of our distribution and teaming partners, they hold contracts as well, and other designations in addition to our veteran small business.
Super. And with that, we'll ask one more question, which, what do you need help with? Is it anything particular with is it BAA compliant furniture? And this is where there's another question about some equipment that we may be able to answer offline. BAA compliant construction products like the walls, or is it something else, or a specific project? If you have a specific project that you need somebody to jump in on, and then or if it's something else, please contact you. Then we'll make sure we'll get folks on their way in just a minute. And we won't even share that just because of the time. Somebody asked the question before about will the presentation be made available? Absolutely. You will get a follow-up email including all the Q&A that happened on this session and the prior session. We'll get you the supporting documents on the Buy American Act, as well as Trendway capabilities, procurement options for different ways of being able to fulfill those Buy American Act requirements, and any additional documentation that you ask for. And I do have one other question, which is from Jeanette. Do you have bulletproof panels? So we're asking the question about some other things. What about that, Roy?
Well, currently we do not, but we will entertain looking at anything that you have a need for. It would be a special, but we do specials all the time.
There you go. So, and let me just check and make sure we don't have any, I don't see any additional questions right at the moment. Make sure we do have that. All right. Well, I think we did it. So, and we got people out almost on time. We're running just a couple of minutes late, but we really appreciate you being here, Roy and Carrie, to help with this, and hopefully we help some information that was needed for the Buy American Act. Any parting comments from you guys? Roy first.
No, thank you very much for your time. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. We'll get back in touch with you ASAP.
No, very good. How about you, Carrie?
Thank you for your time. We do really appreciate it.
Yeah,
and look forward to talking to you.
We know they have a lot of things that they could be doing at any given time. So we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to talking with you about future Buy American Act things as well as other components. So please join us next time. Thanks much.
Thank you.
Thank you.